All right, everybody. This is First Warn Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. Going to talk a little bit about an area outside of my normal coverage area because eventually this is going to have an impact on us. This is the severe weather outlook today from the Storm Prediction Center. You can see smack dab in the middle of your screen this red area. That's the moderate risk for severe storms today. The yellow or kind of brown shade, depending on your view here, that is the slight risk, and then your general thunderstorm risk. Tornado probabilities pretty high right here. This is a 15% probability of a strong tornado occurring from parts of southern Kansas down through eastern Oklahoma and all the way into western parts of Arkansas and northeast Texas. Hail probabilities, that red is a 45% probability, and then damaging wind threat right there is a 30% probability. We'll turn that off and turn the satellite imagery on, and kind of an interesting situation here. You can actually kind of see what's going on here. Here's our storm system. We'll talk more about that in a second. I'm going to turn a couple of things on first, though. 500 millibar vorticity. Here is our low pressure center in the mid levels of the atmosphere coming down. The surface low is starting to form right in here. I'm going to turn the jet stream winds on, and if you look at the arrows, you see these yellow or these white arrows. That's a really strong jet streak, and if I put my cursor over one of these, you'll see at about 20,000 feet, if I can get this thing to stay put, that is a wind speed right there of 103 knots. So there's 103 to 105 knot jet streak rotating around the base of this 500 millibar vorticity low, which is coming out of the Rockies and into the plains. The other thing you notice, you see these clouds here. The interesting thing about those clouds, that is an indication of look at the dew points or the moisture here surging up out ahead of clearly our dry line going on here. So there's the 300 millibar winds. What happens if I turn the 850 millibar winds on? You can see those are coming from the southwest, especially down in here. That's our low-level jet. And if I turn the surface winds on, between the surface and 300 millibars, you have almost 180 to 190 degrees of turn. Southeast winds at 10 meters, up at 300 millibars, you have a west wind. So all of that points to super high potential for rotating updrafts with these storms that develop this afternoon. And the thing that is worrisome to me is that this is going to be a pretty significant outbreak to our west. This whole mess is going to shift over this area tomorrow, western central Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, and then on Saturday, it could be over the southeast, Georgia and the Carolinas. So the potential exists there that we're going to see some really nasty storms. Let's take a look at some of the model data coming out. So let me turn a couple of these things off. Let me turn on one model here. This is the HRW model, which is basically future radar. And we'll kind of see how this evolves here. You see the surface low developing pretty clearly here. Our first cells are developing up here in Kansas. These will likely be severe, but will weaken as they move east. It's these down here that we've got to worry about in Oklahoma, down into Texas. And then as the system moves off to the east, you see kind of how we get a line to develop. But I actually think supercells will be embedded in that line. So that's the area we're watching. And then you see it progressing to the east. And this is 48 hours out, so this would be basically a Friday night. So you look at the NAM, same time frame. Let's go back to the NAM here. NAM's trying to do basically essentially the same thing. Obviously the resolution isn't as high, but you can see what it's trying to do is it shifts everything to the east. So the potential is there that we're going to see some really nasty storms here in the middle of the country. I'm really worried we're going to see some long track tornadoes if any of these supercells could develop. And the reason you have to pay attention if you live here in the Carolinas, excuse me, is this thing is just going to be shifting east through time. The best hope we can have is that this thing becomes a squall line and we don't have to worry about tornadoes. But because the amount of shear that's going to be over us on Saturday, the threat does exist. So that's just a quick update on what's going to happen over the next 24 hours. Of course, we'll keep you up to date as things change on social media at WCNC.com and on News Channel 36.